Hello everyone, welcome to another lecture of general medicine where I make a dreadful topic easy to learn. And for that, I shall be referring to this Mind Maps book for general medicine by MediStudy Go. Now, why is this book so special? Because it contains every topic in a sought out manner wherein every topic has headings and pictorial representation for all the clinical features and pathophysiologic reactions. So you can get this book for yourself from any e-commerce platform like Amazon, Flipkart, DentalCart, and even the website of MediStudy Go. So let's get into the lecture for today, which is acute glomerulonephritis. Before starting with the topic, I'm going to tell you to explain the term or explain it to yourself. What does acute glomerulonephritis indicate? So acute means something which is less than 6 weeks old. Nephritis means something which is inflammation of the nephron. And glomerulo means related to glomeruli, which is the unit of kidney. So it is something wherein inflammation is happening in the nephrons, and it is an acute situation, not yet chronic. So let's get into the lecture and start with the introduction. So to define this, inflammation of glomeruli, mostly due to immune-mediated injury, is known as acute glomerulonephritis. It can occur in any age group because immune reactions can be seen in any age group. Coming to etiology, which also defines its types, the etiology can be primary, secondary, and hereditary in nature. Primary etiology is because of various diseases like immunoglobulin A nephropathy, FSGS, etc. What is FSGS? So FSGS stands for focus segmental glomerulosclerosis. Coming to secondary causes, there can be systemic diseases like SLE, diabetes mellitus, HSP, vaginous granulomatosis, and Goodpasture Syndrome, which can also lead to the inflammation in the glomeruli and the nephrons. Also, infections like infective endocarditis and HIV, wherein the immune reaction or the immunity is compromised, can also lead to an autoimmune reaction by the body to combat the infection, which leads to inflammation throughout the body, and a part of it which is glomerulonephritis. Other than this, there can be hereditary causes wherein the patient gets it from the parents, and that can be because of Alport syndrome and Fabry disease. Alport syndrome is basically a basement membrane disease wherein type 4 collagen is defective, and if collagen will not be formed, the basement membrane is going to be affected and a defect is going to be present in the glomerulus, leading to Alport syndrome. Whereas in Fabry disease, there is fat accumulation, which is genetic in nature and not because of any external cause. So this fat accumulation is also going to lead to blockage and obstruction, leading to inflammation in the renal system. After we know the etiology of a disease, we need to know how the disease progresses and what is the pathophysiology. So the pathophysiology of acute glomerulonephritis can happen in 3 different forms or types. The main mechanism behind its occurrence is that any antigen, whether be it exo or endo antigen, that is in the body or outside the body, it is going to capture and initiate a stimulatory response by the immune system. This is going to activate the antibodies because T cells are going to get activated. This antibody plus antigen is going to form a complex. When these complexes are not removed by the body's immune system because of hampered immunity maybe, these complexes, they can deposit into the basement membrane of several structures. Such deposition of complexes in the glomeruli of the kidney forms glomerulonephritis disease. So if we read what's written here, immune complex mediated glomerular injury develops due to circulating immune complexes deposition in glomerulus. This immune response is due to some exogenous antigen like post-streptococcal diseases or endogenous antigen which could be possible in diseases like SLE. So in these cases, they enter the body, activate the antibodies, form a complex with it and get deposited in the basement membrane leading to inflammation. Now what second can happen that if there is an anti-GBM antibody which is against the glomerular basement membrane, if an antibody is formed, it mediates the glomerulonephritis and it develops when there is injury to insoluble fixed glomerular basement membrane which exposes intrinsic antigens of the GBM. So if suppose this is the glomerulus and this is the basement membrane, this basement membrane, if it gets eroded on the top, it is going to expose the antigens present inside it. Now, body is going to think this is something outside material because antigen can be endo or exo, but the body's reaction will be immune response and stimulation of antibodies. So antibodies will be produced in response to these exposed antigens, and complexes will be formed which will get deposited then and there. This is also going to lead to glomerulonephritis. Lastly, in both these mechanisms, there is deposition of immune complexes or complement system, which results in inflammation and damage to the glomeruli, eventually leading to an impaired renal function. So if any structure is deranged because of deposition for whatever reason, there is going to be obstruction and blockage, and finally the system of that very organ is going to get ruined, and dysfunctional system will lead to defects and diseases, which begins from acute glomerulonephritis. As you can see over here, the foot processes of the glomerulus part, they can get hampered and defected, and this is the basement membrane, and here the deposits can happen, which is the antibody and the antigen complexes. This leads to glomerulonephritis. Once we know the pathophysiology of a disease, we need to know what are its clinical features and how the disease is presenting in a patient. So coming towards the clinical features of glomerulonephritis, first and foremost is going to be fatigue, because the body of the patient is working more against so many antigens, so energy is getting expended. There is going to be nausea and vomiting because some infection is present which has initiated this response. There is going to be hemoptysis wherein the patient vomits blood. Other than this, there is going to be edema because the kidney function is deranged, water retention might happen, and that is going to lead to periorbital and pedal edema, along with hypertension, because excess fluid overload will put a load on the heart, and the heart is going to try to increase its cardiac output, thereby deranging the heart function and leading to hypertension. Other than these, the classic symptoms which you see in case of acute glomerulonephritis is frothy urine, because proteins will now be released. The water is not being released, but the iso concentration has to be maintained, so protein drop down into the urine. So that is going to form a frothy urine. Secondly, there is going to be temporary oliguria. Oliguria means the quantity of the urine is going to decrease temporarily until the body tries to compensate for it. And lastly, hematuria is going to be present because RBC cells will also filtered out, and that is going to produce blood in the urine, and that is known as hematuria. After we know the clinical features of this disease, we need to know certain types which are present. Types are actually the etiology causes of this disease. So coming on to the types which depend on the category of nephritis, which is proliferative and non-proliferative. Proliferative is something excess is being proliferated, and non-proliferative doesn't have that. So starting with non-proliferative, it can be because of three main conditions. First is minimal change glomerulonephritis, wherein minimal change happens to the structure and the functioning of the cells. Secondly, there can be focal segmental glomerulosclerosis, which is FSGS. And thirdly, there can be membranous glomerulopathy or neuropathy, which is MGN. So starting with the first one, which is minimal change glomerulonephritis, what happens is that the podocytes, they are damaged, which leads to thickening of the basement membrane. So this defect is present, but there is not major change in the structural and the functional unit of the kidney. So abnormal podocytes are seen on the electron microscopy, and it is treated with simple supportive care and prednisolone, because prednisolone is going to be a steroid which is going to lower down the exaggerated immune response against the body's own cells. And this usually responds well because no major change is happening over here. Second is focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. As the term suggests, not all of the structure is involved. Some focal areas are involved in the form of segments. And these areas, they have the podocyte injury, which leads to scarring. And this scarring is going to cause some damage to the structure which is involved, leading to the manifestation of the disease. So segments of glomeruli develop sclerosis, which is the scarring, and it presents with nephrotic syndrome. Genetic causes can be identified. So mostly it has genetic predisposition also. Steroids are often ineffective in these cases, and 50% cases usually progress to renal failure, because if some tissue is getting scarred, you cannot undo that damage. You can prevent further scarring of the tissue by giving steroids, but the tissue which has already been scarred and damaged, that cannot be undone. So the disease progresses usually to the end stage renal disease. Third disease in this category is membranous glomerulopathy or nephropathy, which is MGN. As the term suggests, there is membranous glomerulopathy. Pathy means thickening. So membrane or the basement membrane gets thickened. Glomerular basement membrane is present, usually idiopathic in nature. And 1/3 of these cases goes to chronic development of the disease. 1/3 cases going to remission, whereas 1/3 going to end-stage renal disease. Since the cause is idiopathic, the prognosis of the disease can also not be decided for being sure. Since the cause is idiopathic, therefore the prognosis of the disease can also not be taken for sure. Coming to the proliferative ones, wherein some cell growth or extra growth is happening, which is leading to the disease. This can be because of 4 main diseases. First is immunoglobulin A nephropathy. Second is rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis, also known as crescentic nephritis. Third is membranoproliferative glomerulonephritis. And fourth is post-infectious glomerulonephritis, which is after some infection. Coming to the first one, as the name suggests, immunoglobulin A is deposited in this one. Most common type of nephritis in adults. Macroscopic hematuria appears within 1 to 2 days post any urinary tract infection or the gastric infection. IgA deposits are seen in the matrix of the kidney. Second can be rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis or the crescentic one, which can be because of vasculitis disorders, Goodpasture Syndrome disorders. What is vascular disorder? That some vessel is not fine. For example, in vaginal granulomatosis, there is vasculitis. Lung, kidney and other organs, they are damaged and ANCA antibodies are positive in it. This can be treated with steroids and cyclophosphamide to decrease the overload on the kidney. Second vasculitis disease can be microscopic polyangiitis, which, as the term suggests, microscopic, it affects smaller blood vessels. So small vessel vasculitis is present where also p-ANCA is positive. It is treated with long-term steroids and can also be required some cytotoxic agents because they are going to decrease the cell growth which is happening in the vessels. Other than this, rapid progressive glomerulonephritis can also happen because of Goodpasture Syndrome, which is an autoimmune disease, and glomerular basement membrane antibody is produced against the antigen of the membrane. So if the antigens are getting exposed, an antibody is going to be produced against its own structure, it is going to lead to the defect. Glomerulus and the lung get affected because both have crossover antigens. Hematuria will be seen because RBCs will be filtered via the kidneys, and hemoptysis will be seen because the blood-filled sputum will also be present. So these cases are also treated with steroids, and steroid-sparing agents can also be used. Coming to the main categories of proliferative glomerulonephritis, third one is membranoproliferative, wherein primary and secondary diseases like immune-mediated ones or SLE and hepatitis can be the cause, wherein inflammation is happening all over the body, usually progresses to end-stage renal disease because mostly the disease is in some other organ. Immune response is already hampered, so it is going to affect all the organs and multi-system failure is going to be there. Lastly is after infection of streptococcus, which is post-streptococcal infection can occur, which occurs weeks after any urinary tract infection, usually because of Streptococcus pyogenes. So this is the bacteria which is involved in this specific case. Supportive treatment will be required because if the bacteria is eradicated, the defect will also be corrected. So antibiotics will be needed and it resolves over 2 to 4 weeks easily. After we know everything about the disease, how it is progressing, what is it showing like, we need to come to a confirmatory diagnosis. And for that, we do lab diagnosis or lab investigations. So coming on to lab investigations and diagnosis for acute glomerulonephritis, first test is blood test. So elevated blood urea nitrogen and creatinine, because kidney function is not normal, toxins are going to be collected. Leukocytosis and anemia is going to be present because leukocytosis are in response to the antigen and anemia because blood cells are also getting filtered. Coming to the urine test, which is the second type of test which we can do, there is going to be mild to moderate proteinuria because due to the shift in the electrolyte fluid balance, proteins are also going to be filtered out. There is going to be hematuria with WBCs or RBCs cast, which is cast cells can be seen in the sample. Coming to the complement levels C3 and C4, which are responsible for the immune response, it is reduced if the pathology is immune complex mediated. If the disease is immunocompromising in nature, C3 and C4 is going to be decreased. But if the cause is something else, they are going to be increased in response so that the immunity is enhanced. Anti-GBM antibody can also be detected wherever the membrane is being exposed and antigen is present. So antibody will be formed against it. Then we can test for circulating antibodies. For example, anti-GBM antibody, which will be present in cases where GBM antigen is exposed. Then ANCA, which is P-ANCA, will also be present in some cases. Anti-ASO titers can also be done for post-streptococcal nephritis. On viewing the chest, X-ray lungs can be involved where both the lung and kidney is involved. And renal biopsy can show which type of disease is present and if renal transplant is required in severe cases. After we have done the lab investigations, we need to treat the patient. First and the foremost treatment is to rule out the cause and the etiology and treat that. So supportive treatment is given wherein control of infections is made if an infection is the cause, give antibiotics, broad spectrum, etc. Fluid maintenance is done so that not excess overload is put onto the kidney. Antibiotics will be required for diseases like post-streptococcal 1, where infectious is the etiology. Immunosuppressive therapy is required where immune reaction is exaggerated, like in the cases of SLE and vasculitis. So we give steroids so that the immune reaction gets hampered. And in severe cases where nothing is working, dialysis is the last option, wherein external mechanisms are used to filter the blood of the body and remove all the toxins which are present. So dialysis will be used in severe cases. So this is how you can compile a big topic via headings and proper mind maps, which you can use from the book of mind maps by General Medicine. And you can get this from all the e-commerce platforms. Besides this, you can also view it on the app of MediStudy Go. And once you are done with the topic reading, you must solve some questions for the topic which you have gone through. The questions can be of two types, flashcards and MCQs. Flashcard is something which has question on the one side and answer on the other. For example, what is the basic pathogenesis of post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis? That the bacteria is present and they activate the antibodies to be produced, and antigen-antibody complexes, they get deposited in the glomerulus, which leads to inflammation. So this is the main mechanism. Secondly, if you solve an MCQ, the classical triad of acute glomerulonephritis includes the one which we studied of frothy urine, etc. So there's going to be hematuria, edema, hypertension, hematuria, fever, rash is not present, proteinuria, anemia, fever. Yeah, fever can be there, but hematuria is also a finding. So edema, jaundice, hematuria. No, jaundice is not present. So mostly it is the first option, which is hematuria, edema, and hypertension. If you view such questions on the app by MediStudy Go, you can view their answer and also an explanation which comes with them. The app I'm talking about is this one, which is the app by MediStudy Go, available for iOS as well as Android. You can comment below this video if you have any doubt regarding getting the book and the app for yourself. And if you like to revise one topic in under 15-20 minutes, you must subscribe to the channel on YouTube by MediStudy Go. Like this video while you're at it. Drop a comment below this video if you have any doubt, and we'll be happy to reach out to you. Keep watching for more such videos on general medicine and other subjects of BDS.